Welcome back, crooks. Many of the questions that I've been receiving lately have been regarding rehab. Just a lot of questions about it. When should I rehab? How do I rehab? When I go to rehab, how much money do I need to bring with me? And do you have any advice about rehab? So I'm going to answer those questions in this episode, and then I'm going to fly to Switzerland to rehab for myself and give you a visual of what that looks like and what to expect in case you are just about to turn level 15 and about to go to rehab for the first time. So, first of all, people ask, when should I rehab? When is my addiction high enough that it makes sense that I have to go to rehab now? And for that, I would say look at the icons in your left navigation bar, and I can zoom in on that here. Bam! So check this out. I've got this brain icon that says my battle stats in combat are slightly reduced, and it's just off screen, but it's saying 4% next to that. So if I come back, how well can you read that? I don't know if you can read that too well, but so my brain icon has popped up for me, indicating that I have at least, right now it says I have minor drug addiction, and then it has a percentage at the end of that. And so for me, it's negative 4%. And generally, if your addiction gets too high, one of the worst things that happens is that when you hit maybe 6% or more, possibly as low as 5%, but I think of it as 6% or higher, then you run the risk of being kicked out of the education course that you're currently taking, which is a big inconvenience and it's easy to avoid. So some of us have to learn the hard way, but definitely when your addiction starts to creep up to around -4 or -5%, that's a good time to rehab. On another note, anytime that you have an overdose, so maybe you're taking a Xanax or an ecstasy and you have an overdose, when you OD, you lose all of your happiness and it sucks. So the best way to recover from an overdose is to go to rehab, and not only will it remove your addiction, but it will also refill your happy bar to full. So also, I guess just to clarify, if somebody's doing a 99K happy jump where you're getting your happiness to the absolute highest you can possibly get it to, and then you overdose, when you go to rehab, it will only restore your happiness to the natural maximum. So for me right now, my natural maximum is 4,525 based on the private island that I'm living in. So yeah. Rehab when your brain icon gets to -5, -4 or -5%, or rehab after you overdose. And on a similar note, a lot of folks ask how the timing impacts your employee effectiveness in your company job. And there's a really good answer to that question, which is that the business day for a company resets at actually pretty close to right now. So right now it's 18:21 Torn City time. The business day resets shortly after 1800 Torn City time. Usually it's about 10 to 15 minutes after the hour, but it varies, and I'm not sure I can explain it any better than that. It just happens shortly after 1800. So the takeaway from that is that when you rehab, it is best for your boss, it's best for your company employee effectiveness, for your work performance, if you rehab shortly before 1800. So that's about it on my advice for when you should go to rehab. Next, let's discuss how to do it and stuff like that. So first of all, it is a requirement that you first reach level 15 in the game, because when you reach level 15, that unlocks your ability to travel and fly to other destinations in the game. So if I go to the city navigation screen, and I have this sorted by type, here in the miscellaneous section, the purple section, is the travel agency. So we can click there. And here's the travel agency. I personally have an airstrip, and so there is even another way that you can navigate to this screen. If you're already renting a private island with its own airstrip and you've remembered to hire a pilot on your staff, you could just go to your properties instead, and then from your properties, from your private island, you have a shortcut to take you to this screen. So you just select Switzerland, which is you see the Switzerland flag here, which is a red flag with a blue plus icon on it. I'm not going to start my flight just yet, but this is where you would go. For me, it takes about a little over 2 hours of real time to get there, and there's no charge because I utilize an airstrip with a pilot. There is another way to reduce your addiction without traveling. So, just to mention real quick, if you're working at a flower shop, not only do you get good travel perks to exceed your travel capacity by carrying extra flowers with you, but you also have a company perk or a company special called herbal cleansing, where you spend your job points to reduce your addiction, which is a very cool perk. I'm a big fan of recommending flower shops to newer players for its combination of those perks for traveling and for your addiction reduction. It'll definitely reduce your rehab costs, and it's just a cool company to work at, in my opinion. When a new player goes to travel to Switzerland to rehab for their first time, I would recommend bringing about $1 million with you, depending on how high your addiction level is. When you get there, you can purchase increments of rehab, and each increment costs $250,000. And the more addicted you are, the more sessions of rehab or the more increments you'll pay for. Also, because we're talking about traveling, anytime you travel, you really ought to be buying plushies or flowers or maybe Xanax or smoke grenades if you're it's going to South Africa. But for rehab in Switzerland, you're going to be buying plushies or flowers. So bring an extra $50,000, and also remember the fact that anytime you're traveling, if you're not disciplined about doing your business and flying back immediately upon landing, there's a chance you could get mugged while you are abroad. So bring a little bit of a buffer. That way you'll have enough money to buy plushies while you're there, withstand getting mugged if you're unfortunate enough to get mugged, and then have enough money for however many rehab sessions you need. And for me personally, I'm at the point where I need about 2 to 3 rehab sessions, I think. So I just bring extra money, more money than I need. So before I depart for my flight, I check my energy level because I don't want to waste any natural energy, and I have 4 hours 21 minutes until my energy is full. And it's only a 2-hour flight, so I could definitely be there and back in time before I'm wasting any natural energy. I've got a little over $1 million cash with me, so I have the cash needed. And let me also check my OC timer, my organized crime, because anytime you're traveling, you want to avoid any delay in the facilitation of any organized crime that your faction is using you for. And my OC timer has 5 days on it, so I'm in the clear there. Alright, so I've checked my OC timer, I've made sure I've got cash on me, I've made sure that I don't have too full of energy, and and also I don't have any pending trades. Sometimes I've had a case where I had a really big pending trade and I had a ton of money in that trade and I was waiting for a supplier to accept it, and then mid-flight the trade expired and all of the extra cash that was in my trade suddenly went into my pocket. So as soon as I landed, I had to hurry up, do my business, and fly back because I was worried that I could get mugged while having all this extra cash on me from a trade that expired at a time that I wasn't prepared for. But that's not an issue here, so I'm going to go ahead and start traveling. It will take 2 hours, 3 minutes. Continue. You make your way over to the airstrip and tell your pilot to head for Switzerland. And now here is the screen that you get while you're traveling. It's always very similar. Depending on where you're going, the airplane looks different. And you also get a funny travel tip. So today's travel tip for me says that so far today, 2,497 people have checked themselves into rehab in Switzerland. Of these, approximately 30% will return in the next few months. 2% will be dead within the next few weeks, and 68% will leave the program early, having decided that actually they really quite like drugs. I love these tips, or these travel facts. Anyway, I'm not going to make you sit here and watch this 2 hours. I'll edit and cut this out, and see you when we land in Switzerland. All right, so some time has passed. I have a couple dogs that I'm dog sitting for doggy daycare for just a couple hours today, and we've got 2 minutes left on the clock before I land in Switzerland for rehab. The new travel tip, because I refreshed the page, so I got a new travel fact. This time it says, in Switzerland, any citizen is allowed to challenge any law and propose constitutional amendments. This probably has something to do with the fact that everyone there owns a gun. Let's not tell the people of Torn about this, yeah? Okay, so what we got? 1 minute 45? Okay, so I've just landed, and the first thing I'm going to do is buy 31 chamois. I should learn how to pronounce that. Plushie. So my current travel capacity is 31. I'll buy all 31. And they just not too long ago changed the navigation while traveling. So now on the left-hand menu is rehabilitation. So I'll click that. And based on the addiction that I have, it will, to get completely fully rehabbed, I would have to rehab 5 times. One piece of advice that I always give to flyers is that when you go to rehab, don't pay for full rehabilitation. Normally, now this is a unique situation where I have up to 5 rehabs that I could do, and each individual session, each increment would relieve me of 20% of my rehab. I've never actually, this is my first time ever seeing this before, where the last and final increment is fully utilized, meaning one session gives me 20%, 2 sessions gives me 40% relief of my addiction, 3 gives me 60, 4 gives me 80%, and 5 gives me 100%. This is rare. So sometimes, in other words, sometimes it would say that I've seen it sometimes where the 4th quantity, the 4th increment would give me up to 99% of addiction reduction. And in that case, you should especially not pay for the last and final increment because it's overkill and you're not getting the bang for your buck. And then also at the same time, you're not leaving yourself with any addiction left over at all, which I think is a bad idea because you would not be taking full advantage of natural addiction decay. So when you go to rehab, just slide this all the way to the max and then take it down 1 notch. So instead of paying for 5 increments of rehab, I'm only going to pay for 4. Now I'm still slightly addicted to drugs, but that's okay because I'm naturally going to lose a little bit of that addiction every day. So I'm done. I bought plushies, I rehabbed, and I still have enough time to travel back to Torn City before my energy bar is full. So I just go back to travel home, travel back, and that's it for this episode. Hope it helps some folks out there. Happy playing.